Call the meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. I am going to go into, actually, do I hear a second of the three members that are here?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Celine? Mark?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now I have to go through this, so I apologize in advance. Script for remotely conducting open meetings. Today is Monday, December 7th, and the time is 6:05 p.m., and we are open the Recreation Committee meeting. As preliminary matter, this is Mike Volpone, Chair of the Newry Recreation Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members are persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. David Brohl is on his way. David Dempsey just got here. I'll have to call his name again in a second. David, wave.
You hear me now?
I can hear David Dempsey. Yes, you're here, right? I just started the meeting. Just say you're here. David?
Dempsey. David Dempsey.
David Dempsey, are you here?
You can't hear.
David Brohl, are you here? Okay, well, he's on mute, but I just saw him say I'm here. Celine Moldavi,
Here.
Mark Sand, Alicia Greco.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm definitely here.
Employees, reps, or other town attendants, attendant guest speakers. So we have from Rush, we have Danielle and Stefano. From Triton Youth Lacrosse, we have John Vogel. From Triton Youth Soccer, we have Jason DeRoches. And from Sphinx, we have Coach Mo. And I'm not sure who, I apologize, who just joined us. I'm waiting for the connection. Ed Trojan.
Yeah, he's
I'm
muted.
I'm not sure which group he's with, so I apologize.
Lacrosse.
Is he with Lacrosse? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. Today is Monday, December 7th, an open meeting of the Newry Recreation Committee, which is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to all the meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which can be found posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so the public can follow with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Newry Recreation Committee is convened by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the Recreation Committee's agenda, which can be found on the Recreation Committee page on the town's website. The agenda identifies how the public may join the meeting. This agenda can also be accessed from the website's homepage by clicking on the box that says agendas at the top of the news box. For Zoom meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees and participants by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that all folks may be able to see you and that take time to care not to screen share your computer unless you're requested to do so by me. Anything that you may broadcast may be captured by the recording. Materials were provided by the board committee members prior to the meeting for review. If it was applicable, in this case, you have our agenda. We are now turning to the first item of the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure ensuring accurate meeting minutes. For the discussion items, I, the chair, will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold your name. Please hold until your name is called. Further, everyone other than a board member, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please use earbuds or earphones with the tablets and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in any way that helps take accurate minutes. Take care not to screen share. For your response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Board members will be called upon first in alphabetical order to ease the process. If board members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taken care to identify yourselves. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. That's it. I try to do this as quickly as I can. So we've called the meeting to order. Present. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the order of reading at the previous minutes and go to the discussion on the tentative schedules for the spring with the organizations present. Do I hear a
Second.
second?
Second motion.
All right. Do I have any discussion? All is in favor?
Aye.
Celine,
Aye.
David, Broll,
Aye.
Mark Sand,
Aye.
David Dempsey.
Aye.
All right, let's go. The reason I've asked, or we've all asked you guys to attend tonight, one, thank you for giving your time, and we're trying to get you in and out so you're not having to, if you want to stay, you certainly can. But as you can see, there are a lot of groups that looking for field time. We have Triton Youth Soccer, Triton Youth Lacrosse, we have Sphinx, we have Rush. We have 4 groups, and there's potential for a 5th in a football league that's also looking to get time. We want to be as fair and cooperative with everybody to get this done. So we're just trying to make sure we all have our times and our spaces, because there are a lot of times we had field availability. We had fields open and people had already reserved it. And then I had a couple of occurrences where we had people that were not supposed to be on the field, but were using it. So we're trying to make sure we get everything done and everything set up accordingly. I have received all the schedules and all the times you guys are looking for. I hope to have something done before in the next couple of weeks regarding to what we're looking at. I really am not quite sure if you guys have a problem with all kind of working together on this, or if there's areas that we can use. Can I ask the committee one more quick question? And this is really probably to Dave Broll and Mark Sand. Are you guys aware of the field area on the side closest to the red house? If that is ours, or is that their property?
When you say the field, the knoll behind the tree. And so if you're standing on field 5A and 5B facing north, your Central Street is behind you. The other fields are on your left. The red house is on your, the fields are on your right. The red house property is on your left, and you continue straight forward out, and there's a knoll. It's not flat. It's kind of rounded.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is it gets mowed by the town of Newbury.
So it's ours.
That's my understanding.
That's a great idea.
That can be better
I'll tell you in a
quantified by
second.
looking at the assessor's map.
All right. I was hoping, Celine and I were talking before the meeting started just about the idea, what we're looking for to do with Central Street. And if that's now an area that is ours to use, that may open things up, because right now we have the 4 main fields and the 2 smaller fields up in the corner. But if we have that, it could be used more as a practice thing, or someone to kind of do something they want to, but at least gives us an opportunity to use more area for the time
Can I
being.
interject, Mike?
Please.
Interject. Actually, there are a number of places that we can use. We did vote on this about 3 years ago, and I know when Warren was around, he gave permission for what we called auxiliary areas. One being in the parking lot where the sledding field is. Most of it's designed for the younger kids to get them out. The second one is where the septic hill was, and there's areas around there that are small, again, more for the U9, U11 groups, possibly U13s to be out. If people don't mind being on a gravelly area, I'm thinking lacrosse just for throwing. There's a whole stretch, there's about a 10-yard area from the back end of the fields that includes the roadway and rough cut grass. There is the tarmac area at the bottom of the hill. Again, that's paved, but it's space. Problem with that area is it's not visible from the road. The knoll area and surroundings. And it would probably be damp in the spring, is the back where the path that goes from Central Street to Triton. It's a little not perfectly level. Again, it's great to just the kids get out down there near where the Boy Scouts put the boardwalk in, just on the other end, closer to the Central Street property. There's a large area, not a full field by any stretch, but it gives people spaces to do things. To be considered as, my suggestion is, I don't think any of them are large enough to hold a field. My understanding from Diane Manter years ago was they put in as many fields as they could that would be properly drained and full size, but the other areas could be used for practice space, save conditions on the field, particularly in the spring when the fields are officially closed.
Thank you, Mark. I want to open this up to the groups. Just kind of let me know who wants to talk so we don't go crazy here. And I know it sounds crazy. I'm not trying to play like a school situation. Just let me know, raise your hand so we can choose people that want to talk. But I want to get your opinions on this because we want this to be for everybody. We want everybody to have the opportunity to use the fields, and we're trying to find more areas. But we're also right now considering, I mean, Mark gave us a lot of great ideas and great areas that we can possibly use even on a temporary basis. What do you think? Jason and Stefano and Mo, you're going to have to either just pipe in a little bit so I can get you because I, of course, cannot see you, the three of you. Or are you going to leave it up to us, you guys, to say, here, this is what you get and what we're doing? This is why I invited you. I wanted your opinions.
So,
John,
this is Jason.
John Vogel.
Oh, you can let Jason go first. That's fine.
All right, Jason, go ahead.
Sure, this is Jason from Trenton Youth Soccer. Michael, are you referring to just kind of our thoughts or feedbacks in regards to what Mark Stant had just talked about?
That, and also the idea that I think we're going to be a little overcrowded. I would like to find ways to make sure everybody gets use and we can get things done. We certainly want to make sure we're not taking time that we're not using. And if we have time and if we need it, we certainly are using it.
Yep. Let me just touch base in regards to what Mark Stant had mentioned. Of all the locations that Mark Stant had mentioned, and regarding like practice and trying to identify if any of those could be like formal game fields per se. One of the thoughts in regards to the recreational committee is the end where it's kind of rounded off, where the dirt road kind of makes the corner before it goes down the hill towards the wetlands. Conceivably, if you put kind of like a retaining wall closer to the woods, and then whenever the town gets fill from like road construction, puts it there, eventually you can flatten that out to make a long straight field for some of the younger groups. At no additional cost besides the retaining wall. In regards to field space for the spring, I know all four groups had put in applications. Can you let us know, like, for all four groups, like what days there overlap? So then we could specifically talk about, you know, the days that there is overlap versus none that there's no conflict.
Yeah.
I'll step off now.
I mean, I said, I just got the schedules on Friday. I've been swamped with a new job, or new clients. So I'm trying to get through these things. I will try to have an answer to you definitely before the holiday. I'm trying to get everything wrapped up before next Friday, the 18th.
So can I?
Celine?
I think that's an interesting idea of where we could create a field. That part is closer to the wetlands. So I don't know how easy it would be to build a retaining wall and fill in.
Well, there's woods there before it gets to the wetlands because it starts dipping down. So it's cleared already. Like maybe 100 feet is cleared. And then it still goes to woods before it gets to the wetland. The question is how much, like how far towards, I guess, how much fill you can get to add another field there. It might be 100 feet wide by 100 feet long. I mean, but it's a flat practice field, which all the other places Mark said, are good practice fields, but they're not kind of flat. So you run the risk of like rolling ankles.
Yes, could I ask a question, Zed Trojan, Triton Youth Lacrosse?
Certainly, please.
I have a general understanding of the area that, you guys are discussing. It sounds like we're talking about improvements of the space, in order to make use of it. So that conceivably would be done, something done in the fair weather for future use, potentially. I think, what we're talking about now is really the space, the use for this coming season. And, then there's always challenges, with regard to drainage, et cetera. So we certainly understand that the space is at a premium. And so anyway, I just wanted to be clear that it sounds like what these possibilities are for the future use. And for this coming season, we're talking about, the fields in that have been used historically. Question I have is you had mentioned, apologies, Michael, I'm new to this forum. I haven't attended before, but certainly have been plugged in with Mark and others over the course of time. You said there's 4 groups that are vying for, or basically have submitted schedules.
Yes.
And all 4, of course, Triton Youth Soccer, Triton Youth Lacrosse, and the other 2 are?
They're outside groups. One is Rush Soccer and the other is Sphinx Soccer.
Okay. Okay. Again, forgive me, I'm, a bit, new to this.
No
but
problems.
In general, we asked for the space for 2 months out of the year, and, we're trying to be as flexible as we can. And historically, we've taken it for, I think the schedule to attend to the schedule that John had forwarded to you is pretty much what we've had in the course, over those years that I've been involved since, say, 2013. So those are the 2 months, well, April and May principally, and the first part of June. And this all 4, of course, soccer would certainly be interested. I'm not sure about the other 2 groups, but so my understanding was that these fields were for the use of the town. I don't want to get into all the, a lot of history. I know there's been a lot of discussion, but I'd like to, somehow, yes, if we're not using the field, we want to make sure we're using the fields at the time we're scheduled. But in terms of priorities, in terms of, I can't think of, from my perspective, is the span of time. We're challenged as we are in making sure the kids can play. We're, trying to recruit like crazy to grow the numbers, et cetera. My thought was that these fields, we would have sort of let's say priority, but.
You do.
Okay.
Triton Youth Soccer and Triton Youth Lacrosse are the first 2 on the list because they are town-based programs, and that's what they're geared towards.
Okay. So sorry for stumbling through that.
No.
I step in it and,
You're also trying to be polite in the whole situation, and I'm well aware of it because it's not the reason I brought everybody here, because I want to let everybody know is that we're trying to find ways to make this work. And if there's ways that we can work together as a team to try to figure this out, like what we teach our kids, we've got to find ways to make sure we can kind of help everybody else out at the same point. And that's kind of the main focuses. Celine?
So I don't know what the schedules are looking like that you've received, because you've taken that over for me. Thank you. And I guess, historically, the problem has been that the fields have been overbooked and not always used. And so we're trying to find a way. That's why we switched our fee schedule. We're still on a huge learning curve to make that work. And basically it's to optimize not every hour of the field, but kind of bring people in and out as we can, so that everybody gets a chance to play. So it really depends how many teams you have, how often they practice, and the games and so forth. But that's where kind of this has evolved from, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Right.
and my 2 cents into this is that, again, it's a different year this year because of the COVID, but we had people basically rent the fields the entire season. And I've driven by many times, and a majority of the times there's just a couple teams playing. So there's got to be some kind of wiggle room to get everyone in somehow, some way. That's my thought.
Can I just ask, let me just ask a question. Do we have to maintain the field, just stick with the fields that are at Manta? I come back and forth from Plum Island every day, and the field down here at the lower green by the old police station is empty, and it's always empty, except the only people I see there is T-ball and Little League. But the rest of the year, that whole field is just wide open and empty, and it's a nice flat field. There's parking off on the side of the road. So are we strictly just restricted to Manta fields, or could we expand to have one of the teams, or maybe even two of them, utilize that field as well?
I think that's something that has to go be in front of the Board of Selectmen. I think that
Really?
our group is sort of designated to be in charge of, or the way it was originally set up was in charge of the Central Street fields. So
Central Street and
That's a beautiful
Sorry.
field, and it sits empty all the time.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm saying.
jurisdiction of the upper green and lower green are this town of select board. The high school is Triton Regional. Newberry Elementary is behind the elementary. The two fields there are Newberry Elementary. We have Manta Field, and we'll have Kent Way when and if that gets developed. We're the only town that has like 5 different jurisdictions for its athletic fields. The upper green and the lower green are highly discouraged from regular use. A number of individuals are frustrated that baseball is there on a regular basis. That's why the Kent Way property was originally purchased years ago, so that eventually the T-ball teams could move to Lunch Street, Kent Way fields and open that up for more recreational pickup games, as they used to call them, the clam digger games, and not as scheduled. Right now, the Board of Selectmen gives the town, the Little League softball team, full reign of that without a schedule, without any compensation.
Well, the only sad thing about it is they use just a small portion of the field too. And there's a whole section of that field that just sits there empty. I would say probably 80% of the entire year. And because we're in a situation where we're experiencing overbooking and we're trying to accommodate anybody, is there any way that we could go before the Board of Selectmen and just say, under the circumstances, can we loosen up that field and have one or two teams and give a particular schedule that they could use that field, which would free up some of the space over at Manta?
Or even,
Alicia?
I don't know.
I think that, yes, you absolutely can come before the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, I should say, and ask. I mean, anyone has the right to book that field the same way in town, like, to use the green. It's just that the discretion comes before the board. So you just have to get on the agenda and ask.
Okay.
so I think we can ask them for, seasonal use. Go before, can we have 1 or 2 fields for the spring season, or 1 or 2 fields for the fall season?
Well, because I just think that's a good alternative instead of saying to somebody, we don't have the room, we can't use it. You mentioned a football program maybe coming in, and it's an opportunity to accommodate everybody until we do get the Kent Way situation better under control and moved further along to plan for some future usages. But I just can't see us struggling with scheduling and overloading. And like I said, and there's a perfect field. It's in great shape and it sits there empty. So I think maybe the process of us going before the Board of Selectmen and just saying, can we, if we could put a set schedule on when we'd let you know who would be there and when they'd be there, is it possible for you to temporarily free up that field for our use until the Kent Street situation gets a little further along?
So that's a good point, but I don't know that we may be able to have that in play for the spring, but we still need these separate teams to kind of work together, as Mike was saying.
Mark?
The real issue is not so much Monday through Friday, because I'm certain that the different groups can coordinate amongst themselves and between themselves use of the fields. The challenge is, when I looked at the schedules, is Sunday, because those are the game days. There is little control that different organizations have with their league in terms of scheduling and rescheduling games. So in many cases, it's here's what your schedule is, find your fields. And if you're not in the same group or cycle, you may have 2 games at home and then 2 games away. So that's one reason they need to book in advance, because their schedules don't come out until a couple of weeks before the season starts. But again, if you look at the schedules, I think Mo's Sphinx Soccer's games are on Sunday. Rush, I believe your games are on Sunday. Trenton Hughes lacrosse games are on Sunday. I don't know if 2xLS, Trenton Hughes soccer.
No, they don't. Soccer is not.
We're looking for any, so it's just the 3. And I know that Seacoast football games I thought they were on Sundays as well. Now with Seacoast, they're supposed to only have 1 day of practice per league rules, but I know that's not necessarily the case, but their games are on Sundays as well. I don't know if they need a goalpost for their games or not.
Ed, go ahead.
Yes, on the subject of scheduling, it's a good point, Mark, and yes, true. I'm doing the, scheduling for the boys and, helping with the girls. And that's the one thing is very important, why we're very, I guess, concerned right now, is because we're being asked for field availability. Every year, we've always been asked field availability, and we've always submitted, up until recently, submitted, okay, we have manager fields, et cetera, and we've always had them reserved, because we do play all day and we're not in control of the schedules. The schedules are basically done statewide level, and you submit your fields, and then they figure out, they get back to you with the schedules. We have virtually no control over that. What they are asked is, every program, every town has to, commit to their, okay, we have fields, and it could be every other, where you have probably, depending on the numbers, we can have 10 to 14 teams. Half will play at home, half will play away, and it's, and it's never the same ones all the time. So it alternates. So the bottom line is, from 8 in the morning till 6 at night, we could have games, and that's very important.
When does decision making happen on when the games are going to happen? Because basically what's happening now is you guys will take the fields for the whole entire day, and let's say you have to use the fields for 4 hours and the rest of the time they're just empty. Is there a certain point where that these fields are going to be used for that period of time? And because obviously when you want to leave the fields a little chance to repair themselves, but on the other hand, when you go by on a Sunday afternoon and nothing is going on, when there are other groups who'd like to use the field, that's where it gets frustrating.
Well, David,
Yeah. Can I speak to this for a sec?
John, go ahead.
Yeah, but David, some of the challenges are like, and as a coach and as someone that's like running around town trying to get these games, and they get rescheduled and then they get pushed off, is in the beginning of the year, you might have a couple games that cancel, and because of because they cancel, the league is stressing to move these games to fit these people together, to get that referee back on, to get that coach back in, to get that people together. So when there's like no flexibility at all in some kind of field situation, that doesn't allow the league any flexibility to move that game. And then what happens is the kids miss out. So it's just I hear what you're saying, especially when you're like, hey, like blocks of time, like why can't we be more efficient with that? I just want to give you some more background as a coach and someone who's in there. You're running around, come mid-season, and you're getting pushed around to another schedule to allow those kids to play because something gets pushed off. And it's super challenging for us too. So there's a lot of frustration as a coach and as someone out there trying to get to those fields and get to those games and get those kids playing. So
Mark, go ahead.
The other party we are not considering is when you have the home team, you have the visiting team. Many times they'll send one or two teams there. The coaches involved may have maybe coaching 2 or 3 different teams, either in that area, but more also very importantly are the officials. Many officials will end up doing 2 or 3 games in order to make it financially feasible for them. And most youth organizations officials are at an all-time low. So we consider the need of scheduling, not just when they make the schedule, how it fits with the 2 teams, but also the officials. So we can't say, oh, you have the field from 9 to 10 and then the game from 12 to 1. The officials they're going to have a very difficult time finding an official to hang out for 2 hours.
All right, Jason, go ahead.
So, on something just to add in regards to the schedules, and especially with like Triton Youth Lacrosse, Triton Youth Soccer, on the game schedule for the fall, historically it would be like one game after the other. What soccer was required to do through the state of Mass was to have a half-hour break. So there would be a game from 9 to 10, let's say. Then from 10 to 10:30, there was no game scheduled. That allowed the team 15 minutes for the team that just played to leave and 15 minutes for a new team to enter without them crossing paths while walking. And then the next game will be at, if the first one was from 9 to 10, the next game will be at 10:30 to 11:30. So, David, there might be gaps where you might not see too many people on the field. It might just be that transition time as well, just so you know. So
consistently during Sundays, consistently during Sundays, that field around 1, 2 o'clock is half or less capacity. I think there's 5 fields and there's half capacity, and that's fine. And then there's other times that I'll go there in the afternoon and there's not a soul on the field at 3 o'clock. Mike has had the same experience when we drove by. So from our point of view, we look at, we're trying to make everyone happy, but then again, we feel like we could also make some other people happy by having those fields available, whether it's 1 or 2. And then you guys have your backup fields. Maybe I'm just I'm not seeing stuff, but I look at it as, I know that there are other bigger organizations or bigger cities that have more groups going to use their fields, and somehow they do it. And we sort of consistently have this sort of empty situation it goes back. I know it seems like a broken record, but we have all these fields, they're taken for the whole day and no one else can use them. And then they're empty. So
I'm going to stop everybody for one quick second. We're kind of going around and around, and we all have our points, and I understand that. We need to make them a lot more succinct, and not, because if not, we'll be spending like a town meeting and spend here hours.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we hit it. Let's get it done. Ed, you're next. Mark, you're behind him.
And to answer David Roll's question, we should know the schedules by mid-March. Okay, so that's a pretty good indication. And I would hope there's 2 things, and I definitely don't want to beat around the bush or go off on a tangent. But so we'll know when we have the fields and not. There's two things, okay? One is, the ability to jockey schedules, yes, okay? There probably is some flexibility. But Mark, you would raise something, raise a point, and somebody else did too. The other thing is, if those fields, say our game fields, and we basically run, say, for instance, our boys program plays 8 a.m. till 3. Realistically, it's probably 3, 4 o'clock when they finish. That'll tear up the field pretty good. Same thing, and I don't know where this is on the list of priorities, but if we start booking that time, every one of those fields, if we're using it, likely we'll be using it on Saturdays for practice. A lot of younger kids can practice Saturdays. On them, could see fairly heavy use on Sundays, and intermittent during the week, because obviously you're moving the kids around and it has to go, be adjusted for the coaches' schedules, etc. So, there is opportunity to be flexible, but Michael, I think, and everybody also have to think about how those fields are. I mean, one of the problems that the high schools face on a regular basis, why they have turf, is because it's easier to maintain. And if we tear those fields up, I'm a little worried about that too. I think all of us.
Everybody, real quick, I just did, while we were talking about this, I just went through everybody's applications. Every hour is booked, and then some. Between the email I got from Jason that shows both the rush schedule and the Triton Youth Soccer, and then I saw Triton Youth Lacrosse's time, and then I added in Sphinx at the end. We're double booked, either on fields on Sundays, as Mark pointed out, he was spot on. Either Sundays and or Mondays and Wednesdays. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we seem to be fine. But Sundays, we're looking for extra field, and Saturday, Monday and or Wednesday, we're looking for an extra field. So just to give you an idea of where everything sits right now.
Yeah,
And that's
Sundays
just,
are critical.
I understand that, and that's critical for everybody. So that's why we're getting everybody together, because we're trying to find out, because I don't want to take from somebody. But I also want to make sure we can all work together and find out what can be done. And knowing that we possibly could use another field, another area, then we could certainly discuss. And Mark, I think you were the next one up, unless I was incorrect.
Let me just state this. I say this probably every meeting, but we need to be clear. We are granting non-exclusive use of the property, meaning that once that permit is issued, they have a right to the field. If they're not on the field, other people can use it. But once that the permit holder comes on, the individuals using that field need to vacate. It's all public property. With that being said, so if somebody's not booked it and they didn't use it, I mean, I've had practices in years past where, it was crappy weather, or we decided to go someplace else, and we're not there. And it happens. But that doesn't mean just because it's not being used at that time from a data perspective, doesn't mean it's always not being used. We need to, again, I think we need to focus on Sundays. And really, as a committee, start looking at other places if we want to continue to keep these programs in here. We also have to consider, typically the first 2 weekends in April, we can't get on the field. So that throws everything off in terms of the team scheduling, and maybe going over the the season's original end date.
Yep. Which right now looks like around the 15th of June is what everybody had kind of put on their calendar. Any other comments right now? Again, we're not making a decision tonight. I wanted everybody to be clear. I wanted all 4 groups to know that we are looking at all. Yes, Triton Youth Soccer and Triton Youth Lacrosse are first on the list because they are town teams. They're the ones that get first priority. That does not mean they're going to get carte blanche what they want, but it does mean that they do have the priority, so everybody is clear. Any further questions on this before we move off the topic?
I just have one comment. So it's been a while since I've coached lacrosse and been in the, youth sports arena. What would be helpful is for me to wrap my head around is, you know, so you've got U9, U11, U13, U15, boys and girls. This is lacrosse example. One team each. So that's 8 groups. 8.
Actually, we run 2, so U11s and U9s run 2 teams.
Okay,
and U-
so but
U13.
I'm asking you that for lacrosse, and I'm asking that for soccer, all the both the youth sports and the private club teams, just to kind of give us an idea of how many actual teams we're working with here. Is that doable? Is that reasonable?
I had commented earlier, somewhere in the order between 10 and 15 teams total. Depends on the U9.
Between boys and girls, boys and girls put
Boys and
together.
girls, yeah.
Okay.
Jason, any ballpark idea what you got?
Yes. Just give me a second. 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Danielle or Stefano and
Yeah.
Mo, I'm going to ask you the same question in a minute, so just be prepared.
On a low, we have between 14 to 16 teams. That's during the week. And then on Saturdays, we have another 150 little kids.
What do you mean?
On Saturdays, we have 3 to 5 year olds, first, second graders, first, second grade boys, and pre-K kindergartens that play on Saturdays. And then our travel teams have games on Saturdays, and our travel teams practice during the week. So that's why during the week we have everybody shows up on Saturdays. That's why we have more fields requested on Saturdays than during the week. So we have about 14 to 16 teams on average. During
How many kids? How many kids per team?
How many kids per team? Depends on the age group, David.
Yep.
But usually age group with the kids for the travel teams during the week would be about 10 to 12 for the little ones, the U10s.
Yep.
And about 17 to 20 for the U14s, the older
Okay.
ones.
Cool.
Danielle, Rush, any idea how many teams you guys have bring here during the week?
Yeah, it looks like right now we're aiming at this year through the spring, anywhere between 18 and 20.
18 to 20 teams?
Yeah.
Mo?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can. Roughly how many teams are you bringing in for the days you're looking at?
3 or 4.
Okay. All right. This gives us a lot of information that we can start looking at. When do you guys need a definite answer one way or the other? And I'm going to start with Triton Youth Soccer. When do you have to give your times to your leagues?
Usually by January 1st, we have to notify them on field availability. I wouldn't be surprised if they start asking a little bit sooner than January 1st.
Lacrosse?
I have to submit it for the 20th of December.
Sphinx?
Around the same time. I'm not sure if
12:20?
you guys can hear me or not. Yes.
I can. Danielle, for Rush?
Usually the turn of the year.
4-1-1. All right,
Can I just ask a question?
Dave, go ahead.
With all these number of teams, do you guys do half teams like lacrosse was saying they split it? There's half the teams are home and half the teams are away. When we talk about these numbers, are all of these teams that are going to be on these fields, or is it the same thing with most of the other organizations where there's half at home, half away? Are they playing on other fields? I understand with the youth, with the younger kids, the 150 kids that come in on Saturday, that's probably all developmental, and you can break them down into 2 or 3 fields and get it all done. But I think in games, as far as the leagues go, is there a home and away situation where it cuts it in half, or it divides it a little bit? So we're only looking at how many teams actually need those fields on Sunday, which seems to be the heavy load day.
Well, David, in many cases, if we're running 2 teams at a level, it could be, it's very difficult to say. Like I said, we don't get the finals until mid-March. But, it's, you don't always have the same pattern. They try to, what they call block teams. So they have, say, if we're running U9 through U15 and, it'll be Triton blue and then Triton white, and they try to keep all of them together, but there's no guarantees. And wish we could, but we're at the mercy of the scheduler until, like I said, mid-March. I see what you're going. I understand what you're saying. In other words, they would try to rotate so one block would be, swapping, alternating between.
One's home, one's away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there'll be someone constantly using the field. Thanks, Dave. I love the cat. Any other comments at this point?
When are the applications due?
I've already just found that out. Well, the teams need them, so we really need to get these things back to the team in the next week or so.
No, what I'm saying is we have a schedule that we publish. Say the application season for the spring starts in December, and the last ones are due by February 1st. So we can't make a decision until that time.
That puts everybody in a kind of a bind.
Yep.
And we were not planning on meeting again until after the first of the year, but we may have to next week, which is, I'm going to try to figure out how to pull that one off.
Well, the challenge, Michael, is if somebody comes in beginning of January, middle of January, and makes a request, if they're a nonprofit Newberry program, they get priority over the fields.
So in essence, that would bump out Rush and Sphinx at that point because they have the next in line.
And it could bump out the Triton programs if they,
Yes.
depending on what fields they need. So yeah.
Yep. We want to set expectations for everybody. We're going to try to do it and get everybody's stuff in as quick. Yep, John, go ahead.
Mark, do you foresee any programs that probably haven't announced that are coming in for year 2021 unexpected?
I know
Is there any this, or is this just like a guess? Pardon?
Seacoast flag football had made an indication last year and again 2 years ago and again last year for
is that fall into
space.
the Newberry? Are they just a Newberry local group, or are they a different group? I don't know their organization that well.
Their structure is interesting. It's one large group that has multiple teams based in different communities. So they have a Salisbury team, an Amesbury team, a Triton team, a Seabrook team. They go right into New Hampshire. They have a number of teams in number of different fields that they play at.
Question being, is there a Newbury Byfield team? If there's not, and there's a Triton team, the Triton team would still qualify the same as a lacrosse or soccer team. Am I correct in that statement?
I don't know, because if the organization, let me ask you, trying to give it a good example.
If the Seacoast team is like, and I'm not trying to split hairs here, but they're more like Rush and Sphinx, where it's more of a for-profit group, then they would fall into that category. I don't know the group either, so I'm asking.
I think that the group is that's more of a league. And then the teams are represented from the teams from Salisbury and Amesbury, the Triton area. I know Ipswich has a team in there. So
Yeah.
but I think a lot of those teams, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, have home fields. And so the only ones that in that area, I think one of those teams might be the Triton team, is looking for a home field. They would not be looking for every team in the Seacoast league to want to use that
Mhm.
particular field. I think they all have home fields, so it'd be only really scheduling the so-called, for lack of better terms, the local team to want to use that field as a home team, a home field.
I mean, I have not received anything, heard anything. Based on the time situation right now, I think unless something comes up,
Right.
it's there.
Yep.
But we've got to make some decisions on our part in a very near future to see how we're going to make this work and what else we can do. So.
Yeah, I don't think we can kind of put any emphasis on what hasn't come in yet. I think we have to focus on what's in-house right
Mhm.
now.
Yep. And I have 4 applications in-house right now.
Okay.
Folks, if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to, but I'm going to make a motion to go back to our regular scheduled meeting. So again, we'll be in touch as quickly as we can and let you know what we're going to do. Okay.
Thank you. I have to go feed some children.
Thanks so much for reaching out.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I
Are you all set?
appreciate,
Thank you.
nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Michael, thanks for taking the time to hear our
Bye.
concerns.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
2.
Thank you.
All right, let's see how many stays. Okay. I hear a motion to go back to the original meeting agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Jason, you're still with us?
I am, but I can hop off, Michael.
No, you don't need to. I didn't say you had to. We'll be getting to the
Okay.
basketball court in a minute if you want to get the latest update.
Yep, I could definitely do that and pass it. I'm assuming you got my email then.
I got an email and I was going to let everybody know in a minute, but I'm going to go through the minutes first.
Okay. That's fine.
Um,
I'll hang on. I'm in a parking lot just waiting for my kids.
Okay.
So I'll stay on.
Reading of the previous meetings minutes, Mark sent those today. I got a chance to go through. There's a couple of typos, but doesn't affect the content at all.
Right.
Did anybody else get a chance to check them out?
Yep.
Any
Yep.
questions, complaints, issues?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of the last
Do I hear a
meeting.
second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Celine,
Aye.
David Brohl,
Aye.
David Dempsey,
Aye.
Mark Stan.
Aye.
And it's just around the room for me. That's how it's set on my screen. So that's how I do it. Bills and claims. How we doing, Celine?
All we had was the bill for the basketball court, I guess, engineer or design person.
What was
That's
it?
it.
8,900, Dave? Ballpark, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Was it that much?
So
I think it was around 8. I don't think it was 89. I think it was around 8.
I sent everybody the latest finance information for as of the latest that they posted. We've only spent $1,100 because we haven't had a lot of bills.
Right.
We know we got the field coming in. They just haven't sent it to us yet, so we're going to have that one coming in. But knowing we have that, we're in decent shape, so we can certainly start looking at things that maybe we can do to help the field. But any other comments regarding that?
Well, again, it goes back to, can we start earmarking, looking at 1 or 2 proposals a meeting and earmarking them contingent on any unforeseen expenditures?
I think Mark and I agree. I think the big thing that we're concerned about is the field house. And if we have to start cleaning that and that opens up and what that's going to cost us, that's the only curve that I see really coming that we haven't at least budgeted for.
That was a question to which I can write to the users, this group, about if the porta potty that we put out there was of value to them or not. If it wasn't of value, then we won't necessarily have to do it in the spring if they didn't feel it helped them at all. Going back to the field house, from the projections going forward, we would have to clean it if we open it up. If we don't open it up, and at this point in time, we've gone so long without it that we take the spring and look for next fall. And that way
It all
we can-
depends. Yeah, it depends on what the state happens in the next few months and how things go. I mean, right now I'd be shocked if we're open that thing in the spring. I'd love to get it open for the fall so we can start using this thing because everybody's been asking about it. But at least we also got to figure out what's going to cost us to maintain that, because that's going to be if we have to do it what the state's asking every day, twice a day, then.
The state doesn't have any set criteria. It's what makes our users feel comfortable. And again, we don't have to open it up every day. We can just open it up on Saturday and Sunday and have 2 cleanings at the end of each shift and be done with it and leave it. Practices are, they're on their own, or we provide the porta potty, whatever. I mean,
but it's still $300. It's twice a day, it's $75 a cleaning, $150 a day, $300 a weekend, roughly $1,200 to $1,500 a month, depending on how the weekends fall.
And that would be a lot more expensive than a porta potty, correct?
Yes, because the porta potties, I think we had them for the 2 months, was going to cost us $900 for the one handicap.
Yeah, so that might be, we might just go porta potty, save us money.
But again, Mark, if you would send that out to the users, I'd appreciate that, just to see if they come back and get any feedback on it. It's not, we don't want to open the field house, but to do it for a full week, it's our budget gone. So let's just take a look there and see what they have to say. Did anybody get any correspondence from anybody? Because I did not, other than the schedules from the applications from the organization. So, David, old business, basketball court. How do we look? One thing. The reason why Jason is staying is Matt Doring has retired from the group, and the team, there's a group of 5 or 6 individuals that are now kind of running it, and Jason is one of them. So that's why he's staying on, so he can kind of report back what's going on.
Okay. So I believe at this point right now, and I'm a little confused because I saw when you ring through that RFP, did you guys end up getting that like 30-page document? And some of the drawings, it looks like it says concrete pavement. So my concern is, and again, I don't know about cost. I think we explained where our budget was at, and again, if you look back at what I texted to him and said what I wanted for, the basics was an asphalt base, rubber top, and then hoops. And I think that has evolved into concrete base, rubber top, and hoops. And I think that price may price us out. I know that right now it is, so there's a discussion going on right now between Tracy and him, catching some of the emails going back and forth about the Conservation Commission, just to make sure that things are good. But he's got a whole RFP already set up and go. I'm hoping that maybe once they sort of got this situation straight with Conservation Committee, I can suggest that we have a 2-part situation. 1, to give us a price on the concrete, which I don't know if we can afford, and then 2, use a pavement base, and then that way. But he's already, I mean, the plans are drawn. Again, I've sent an email and a text to him stating what we wanted as far as keeping our costs down. We'll see how that works out. And maybe he looked at it and said, you know what, they can do it for X amount of dollars and it may work out. I guess we just see what the bids come in at. But I know right now it is between Tracy and him and the Conservation Commission. So
if anybody's looked at the drawing, I'm looking at page 3 and he's got it up, but it looks more like one big court with the 2-on-2 and the one on the long end with the line set. But he's got not a 4-foot chain link fence. He's got like a 10-foot fence with screening and the whole bit around it to really make it. I mean, if we can certainly get it done, it'd be phenomenal. But I think that's going to go crazy. I mean, budget wise, but
yeah,
maybe he knows somebody that can get it done for cheaper. And then we also need to get confirmation that the rubberized topping that we're gonna have done, we need to make sure that's being added into the equation, as well as, do we want to design, does it come that way, does it not? Because I don't know if we, at that point, if we want to do anything for Byfield, if we want to do anything, Byfield Newbury, or if we want to do something for Triton or whatever, as a logo on the court. I mean, maybe we go Triton colors and stuff for the color of the court or whatever. I'm just trying to see if there's something we can do in that regards to when we figure out what that's going to be added.
Yep.
Hey, Dave, is it possible to see if we could get him to come to one of our meetings?
I don't think that'd be a problem.
I think there's a lot of questions, regarding the, and it seems to me that from what I was looking at, I think he's trying to avoid the asphalt. I think they feel that concrete is a better base.
Oh, it obviously is. I mean,
Right.
by far is a better base. But
Right.
when we had that discussion with him, he said that the asphalt base would last if it's taken care of, 20 plus years, right? Was what it was, Mike? It was a
Yeah.
lot of years.
Yeah, the asphalt, the
So-
concrete was going to go an extra 5, I think they said.
Yeah.
But it was going to cost us almost double
Right.
for the materials. And it was like, for 5 more years, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense to
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Especially if we could like if we went through a maintenance procedure and let's say every 5 years, pull that stuff up, which is not hard to do,
No.
and then recoat it, put a,
Sealer
sealer on it.
Yeah.
And that's all he said, but every 5 years it needs to be done.
Okay.
I apologize, I haven't gone through the fine tooth comb, the RFP, but originally we were talking about the rubberized surface. Michael, you were talking, or David, you were talking about tiles that sort of get inserted so that if there was a repair, we could take the tile out and replace it with one. Is that the same type of product? Or are we
Yes.
looking at a coating of a material that'd be one large application?
No, it's supposed to be 2, Mark. It was supposed to be the original you were talking about. It's the tiles. If we had something that was getting worn out, we would be able to use that.
Okay.
Unless, and again, that may be a question for Chris. That's what we originally talked about, unless he's coming back with another idea.
Yeah, I will text him tonight or tomorrow and then go back and say, what are the exact specifics of this? We are looking for cost reasons to do I think that when we first had the discussion, it was plan A, plan B, and maybe this is where it's at, and maybe plan B isn't put in forward. But I thought that he was talking about, give us a price on doing the concrete. Maybe they can come in at that price, but if not, to do the asphalt. But I think that my text to him was very specific that we wanted to have, the most important thing, as Dave Dempsey said, was to have that grid surface on top, where we can bring in more people. And
it's also more forgiving and all that. That was the
Right.
point of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too, if we look at page 3 of not of the big, the bid form, but that 3 pages with the drawings.
Yeah.
If you look at that and you look at 5, he has asphalt paving details, base bid, but his drawings do show concrete base. So I think he just used the same drawings but he did put right on here the asphalt pavement details, and then it says base bid. So
Okay.
I think maybe, that's where there needs to be some clarity, because
Okay.
the drawings do show concrete when he shows the drawings and breaks down at different levels. And then, but I when he does actually say it, he says that it's an asphalt base details and it says a base bid. So I
Okay.
think that's the only conflict, but I do think, that the rubber top that they're talking about put on does come in tiles so that can be changed. Because in every basketball court or any court like this, there's going to be areas of it that are going to wear out quicker. The foul line, the baselines, all that stuff. That stuff is going to actually wear out quicker. And that's the whole idea of it, is to be able to just pop those tiles out instead of replacing, 400 tiles or 300, you're replacing 25 or 30 over time.
Mhm.
So I think, but his drawings do conflict. There is conflict in his drawings, because they do, in the drawings in the level of the surface, it says concrete, but in the actual title, it says the asphalt pavement. So I think that's the only confusion.
Yeah, from what I understand, when I did some pricing on the rubber grid surface, it was around 30 grand, 20 to 30 grand, where you know, it could be more money if they come in and install it, but it's the kind of thing that it's like just putting down piece after piece after piece and just connecting them. So not that we're going to be doing it, but I assume that DPW could do that. But if it's part of an overall bid, then, you know, have them do everything. The asphalt base, put that stuff on, and then we can, at that point, let's say the bid comes in at, I don't know, $85,000. I don't know what's going to come in, but if we have to spend another $5,000 to have the Triton colors and the Newbury, the town of Newbury playing fields, or Central Street playing field basketball court or something, what we decide on, then I think that would, it's just a, you know, cherry on top.
We may have the room in the budget. We can spring it if we needed to at that point, depending how it goes.
Yeah, my fear is all of a sudden, you know, we do the concrete base, and next thing you know, we're looking at $140,000.
Exactly.
And I'd be like, it's a nice idea, but we can't afford it. So,
well, and I think the other thing too is, you know, they're obviously familiar with working with towns and municipalities that, you know, once they put a bid in and the bid form is pretty descriptive and their specifications are specific, you know, that's all going to be within the price. So the price won't jiggle around once they agree to the bid. That's pretty much what they're locked in at. That's why I think the clarity in his drawings need to be more clear. I haven't read the whole 30-page bid.
I started and I bailed.
Yeah, as far as his drawings go, there is some conflict in the language. That's all.
Okay.
David Dempsey, and I hate to pick on you in this, but if you're the one that's got the most experience in this area, if you don't mind taking a glance through it and see what we can pick up, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'll take a look. Yep. All
and
right.
then let anything you find, either send to the group and then send it to David. Mark?
All right. Yep.
I would not make the assumption that DPW would be available to put the pads down.
No, we're not. We're hoping they would, but we're not going to assume it. No.
Yeah,
I have no problems if we get a stack of them out there, and depending how much it is, how much work, I'll go out and work on it in a weekend. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think that in general terms, depending on how these bids come in and how they're written, I think that the grids will be part of, you know, whoever's going to be doing the construction work on the surface will also be in charge of setting the hoops and putting down the rubberized bid. I think that would be the whole. I don't think we'll be doing anything, but in worst case scenarios.
My experience with the municipalities and installation of tracks, you know, rubber-based tracks, turf fields, basketball courts, they want the whole package because they want to be able to warranty it. And that's the whole thing.
Yep.
If we got part of it, one's doing one, somebody else is doing something, we got DPW laying down the tiles, and all of a sudden a year into it, the tiles are slipping and it's not bound down tight. You know, they're going to look at us and say, look, you know, we offered the full package with a warranty. Now you're on your own. So I think it's important how we, you know,
it's look at the full number. The good thing is Chris had mentioned, hopefully we'll have a few people bidding on this because they're going to be looking for the work, and it's a quick, easy thing for them to do in the spring. So
right, and there aren't too many municipalities with money laying around right now with all this COVID stuff and how they're going to have to readjust their school budgets and everything else. So I don't think there's too much work out there right now.
Okay.
So David Dempsey, if you take it, go through it, and then let David Broll know, and then David Broll just let us all know kind of where we stand, and if we can get Chris to the next meeting, that would be huge when we decide what date that's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'll get that done.
Okay. Jason, that's the basketball portion of this. If you want it, do you have any questions regarding what's going on, or?
Can I just mention a couple of things? Just
Go ahead.
Pine Grove, I believe that basketball court's asphalt, and that's been there for a little bit. So if you guys have a chance to drive by, you could kind of see how the asphalt court kind of handled throughout the years.
Where's Pine Grove? Is that
In Raleigh?
Raleigh, yeah.
It's right on 1A.
Yes, and it's right at the entrance right there. I don't know if Newbury Elementary School has a concrete court or if it's Salisbury, but one of them do, so you could take a look. I know
it's not Newbury. I know that much.
Yeah, I know. On concrete, obviously, with the basketball courts, either concrete or asphalt, it's going to be a gravel base. And then if it's concrete, it's usually going to be like 4 inches, maybe 6 inches with wire.
Yep.
And the fear that you have with that is the concrete cracking is usually the issue. I know with asphalt, it bends a little bit, so he might be tossing towards the asphalt, who knows. I know if you look at the field house foundation from inside, you do know, even from the outside, you do know that there's movement in the ground, like in that general area where the field house is. So you might want to just make sure whoever does do the prep work that everything is fully compacted, because the ground's going to shift in that area.
Yeah, this guy that did the Chris Huntress, he was the one that did
Yep.
the original designs and sort of overlay of the fields. So, which was great because he knew the soil conditions.
Yep.
It was a big plus to know that, you know, it wasn't bringing in someone that has never dealt with that. He actually brought back his old plans where the Conservation Commission had an overlay of where we didn't have to, we could actually put it in without having to go and to jump over hoops. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And the same thing, the concrete is one of those things where every one of those rubber grid surfaces, they always say rubber grid surface, put on the concrete base. But I see what you're saying, that concrete does crack, especially in the Northeast.
Mhm.
Yeah, the other, and this is my, just to toss it out there, what I was kind of getting to.
Yep.
You might want to, if the concrete is 4 inches, like 4 to 6 inches, depending upon how thick you pour it with
Yep.
the metal. And if you're talking about putting kind of like the flooring, kind of like the puzzle piece flooring,
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
you might want to think about, instead of the concrete, and just to make a quick call, instead of the concrete, and put a gravel base and check with like a place like Swenson Granite. Because if you do like 2x2 or 4x4 by 4 inch thick patio blocks that are straight edges, not beveled,
Yep.
that won't crack. And especially if you're going to be putting a rubberized surface on top. So then when if the ground shifts, it's easier to pull up just those couple of areas, both the flooring and the 4x4, patio blocks.
Yep.
And then just refill in, then put it back down.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
I will
food for
discuss
thought
that.
if you want to call and check with Swenson Granite, or
Yep.
they make them out of concrete as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason, I get what you're saying, but in my past experience with some of this stuff is that the type of soil, once the type of soil is determined, will tell, if they're going to pour concrete, will tell, number one, how thick it is, but it will also tell how much reinforcement has to go in, whether it's going to be wire mesh or it's going to be a combination of wire mesh and rebarb, or whether it's going to be 6 inches or 4 inches. And once they get that down pretty set and get an understanding of how it's going to settle, it does make a difference. And that's one of the reasons why these guys, when they come in, they understand the soil. They know what has to be done with the concrete to keep it so as it settles, it's going to settle, in one piece, almost like a tray sitting on water and it comes down. So they've got it down pretty much to a science to give it some, longevity and some life. So, and that's one of the reasons they might come in and they might say, just like you said, look you got soft soil here, you're pouring on hard soil here and soft soil over there. You're better off going with asphalt or even some type of granite block.
Sorry.
Yep. But
Just a quick,
nope, that's fine. So
Mark?
if that's the update, Michael, I can hop off if you would like.
No, I just wanted you to be aware of what was going on. I wanted the team to know
Most definitely.
that you're kind of doing it, and then we have all the pieces and stuff. So, but thank you, Jason. I appreciate your feedback and everything on this. So.
Yeah, and it's great.
Mark, did you have anything
Nope.
you wanted to say before he ducked off, or?
again, it's not really that important, but that is where a lot of the fill came in from Warren Manter's construction company.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one of the concerns.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily as stable as it could be. Don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and that's something they'll determine if it's on virgin soil or if it's on, filled land and things like that, what the fill was. That's why they got these PSI concrete guys that come in and they'll figure out what's best, or they'll say, this is why we're gonna go with the paving.
My concern is when they start doing the excavating, they're gonna find some stuff, some bodies or something.
I don't
And
know
they'll be
about
like,
bodies,
nope,
but-
can't do anything.
All right, let's end this part now. We got enough. All right. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate your help. Again, you can hang if you want. If not, good luck and thanks very much for your help. I apologize, sir, who just joined. If you care to identify yourself, or are you just joining in the meeting? I see RG Wall, and I'm just not sure who you are. If there's a reason you just want to sit and listen to the meeting, that's fine.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I've got to be on mute, but I'm with Lacrosse, and I believe that John Vogel was going to join, so I'm just there to listen.
We suspended the order to get everybody on and off, so we've already had that portion of the meeting. It's all set.
All right,
Well,
thanks, Mike.
to the point. No problem. I just wanted to let you know.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Online calendar and the website assistance from the town, we know from last, it's kind of on us. Like it sounds like from Mark's minutes, if I remember correctly. So we got to find something that works. And I may try to look at that thing my wife and daughter were talking about and see if we have an idea. Because it's going to be something we have to do and we have to implement and make sure it's works with the town. And see what we can do. Any other comments? Spending an operating plan. Let's spend some money, folks. Just find out what we can do that make it work. We want to put in a playground. Let's try to figure out a dog park or something that we can do that will make this place even better. And Celine and I were talking about before, and Mark, you seem to have had an idea before the Davids got on. David Burl or David Dempsey, do you know if either one of you know the area, the knoll that's towards the red house, is that
Yep.
ours or is that theirs?
It is ours.
So do you have with your, and I'm talking ballpark, I'm not talking definite numbers. Would it make sense for us to extend the fields we have and fill in some of that gully, the culvert thing, and then
Yep.
level that off and drain it? And if it would be, do you have a ballpark idea? You think what something like that would cost us? Because it would probably have to go back to the town.
I guess I'd have to figure out what kind of yardage are you guys looking for as far as that knoll? I mean, do you want, is it 100 by 60 yards? What's the
Probably
what's
that ballpark.
the
Probably not quite that far. It's probably 70, 75. I was out
75
walking the other day
yards?
with a dog and I'm just sitting there going, I wish we had this. And then I was like, I'm going to ask him. I don't know. So I figured I'd find out from somebody, but, and if you guys didn't know, I was going to go to Alicia next.
Yeah, I have
So-
no idea.
I don't know.
I'm just curious because initial conversation regarding Kent Way was going to be pretty pricey just to get an idea of what we're looking at. And I'm wondering if the money we put towards that, Mark, I'm going to get you in a second. I'm just wondering if the money we had, if we could use it there and get something going instead of waiting on the other one. But Mark, go ahead.
I'm not quite sure what numbers you're looking at for Kent Way, what numbers were thrown out. I don't remember any numbers being addressed other than if it was the original proposition of 2 fields, 6 basketball courts, a skateboard park, a signage, and maybe a concession stand. Yes, that would be expensive. However, as I stated in the letter from Dan Streeter from last meeting, the whole goal was to get 2 baseball fields up. It didn't even need to be fenced in, just open fields so that softball and baseball could move over there and not put the wear and tear on the upper green. It would also be a good place, knowing that it's about it's like over 5 acres, but 4 of it was developed. About 2.5 would be the baseball fields because we're talking little league size. There'd be enough room to put at least one more full field for a U19 or U16 team in there. So it doesn't have to be that expensive if it's just a cleared field, much like Triton. Dave Dempsey, correct me if I'm wrong. The back fields where field hockey is, it's not irrigated. It's not, was a base ever put down for drainage?
No, those two fields, in the fall, I mean, the early spring, you can't even use that. The lower fields
Yeah.
are completely out of the question. And sometimes that field hockey field is, they've got to move up. Now with the turf there, I don't know, it's probably different.
No.
They all probably get time on the turf, but
But my point was, without doing a lot of work, clearing it, grading it, so it has a bit of a crown to it, and put good grass down, we'd have a field. Would it be ideal? No. Would it get chewed up? Yeah, but it's not being irrigated. It would be a good opportunity for us to be able to rotate teams in there, to get practice when the spring is so booked, particularly during the weekday, where the fields are irrigated fields are not in use. We could throw people down there, get it chewed up. That's okay, because we can just regrade it, reseed it, and keep playing. But if DPW has the capacity to do that, the biggest expense is putting the bridge in over the wetland area, which is not a problem. Laying out, grading the parking lot, throwing gravel down there so it's permeable, and we're basically done. We're not talking a lot of money.
Oh, do you have an idea of what a ballpark? And again, I'm not holding anybody to it. I'm just trying to get an idea of what we think to do all this comparable. I mean, the long and short of it, we're looking at, if we can develop Kentway and we can develop Central Street with more area. Celine's got a map in her hand, I can see, or she just.
Found the original plans. Did some closet cleaning. This is when Brian was on the rec committee back in the day.
But if we could do both of those, that would be huge. I mean, we really have an area we can be proud of.
Is it $20,000? Is it more?
I have no idea how much good topsoil is, what the availability of DPW. If they can't do the work, it goes up exponentially. But if the idea.
What if we were to take some of the money that we're saving this year from not having to do anything because of COVID and maybe start clearing Kentway?
Well, I've put that out there. And we can do that right now. We can go before, we can have a draft plan of what we would like to do with the property. I have yet to hear from the town manager, the town administrator, or the conservation commissioner from our meeting 2 months ago to do a walkthrough to identify the potential wetland area. And the regs for wetlands are significantly different now than when that plan was, the original plan was created. They're more lenient. It's just around the edge around Kentway is where the issue is. But the plan was, and if I remember my conversation with Dan Streeter and other people, that was not a impediment to the development of that property. But my guess is I'm going to throw out $10,000. But the idea is we need to come up with an idea of what we'd use it for. It could be in 2 or 3 phases or 4 phases, whatever we want. General costs and a timeline. We can go talk to the conservation officer to see what the concerns are there and get written off. We'd have to go to the board of the select board to get their nod, and then start working with DPW to find out what their schedule is. The typical time for DPW for a project like that is late fall, when the asphalt plants are closed, they're not going to be paving. Springtime, they're finishing up the plowing and getting ready for drains. So there's a timing issue to this. It's not just, hey, let's do it and they're going to be available.
Okay.
But if you want to do it, let's do it. Let's vote on it and push it forward.
Do I hear a motion to to allocate up to $10,000 from our budget.
Can I back that up and make a suggestion that at this point in time, instead of looking at to allocate monies, that we take I make a motion, we take the necessary steps to begin the process of utilizing the Kentway space to include, but not limited to, architectural drawings and the Huntress environmental studies and whatever necessary is to develop a working plan at this time. That we don't necessarily put a budget on, because we're not developing it. We need to get
Well, we
the
gotta
okay
get-
first.
I'm fine with the motion, Mark. The only problem is we're gonna have to get an idea of roughly how much money we're willing to spend, and we gotta vote on that. So we have to kind of put some kind of dollar limit on it. That's the only
Okay.
reason I was saying that.
The other
Everything else you
thing-
said is perfect.
So the other thing too, and I'm just gonna bring up 2 points. We're December and our year ends in June.
June 30th.
So we're halfway through already. So we need to start, if we're gonna like have that money and use it, we need to start using it now. And on a second note, this meeting is only good for another 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Right
so,
on time.
so real quickly on that project, my suggestion is, and again, I think we've all sort of on the same page with this. Let's make it meat and potatoes. Let's say, once we get sort of some idea of what we have for land, we have parking and then we have a big field and we go with just that. And then let's say in 6 months, a year, or whatever, we decide to put basketball courts, baseball fields or whatever, we have one big field we can put lots of soccer people on and then develop it that way. That seems to be the easiest solution. I think Mark came up with the idea of parking. So,
Mhm.
Well, I think
So-
the other thing, I think Mike made a good point of allocating some money because if we want to take and set money aside, even though it's a figure for us to make sure that we lock some money in place so that when we do start this and we go from paper to actually getting some work done, we've got at least a starting budget or some money set aside. So we have money so that we know it's allocated, it's tied up, and it can't be used for something else.
And we're also not waiting for another meeting to come back to decide on what's going on. That's the one thing.
Exactly. If we just say
Yeah.
10 or 15,000, let's just put it there and say, it's here, we need it, we got it.
I don't want to go that high, but I know what you're
Even
talking about,
10,
Dave.
you know, whatever,
Yeah.
if you said 10, we'll go with 10 and just put it
Mark?
so that we know.
The thing with, how much was Huntress for the basketball court?
$9,000, $8,000 to $9,000.
So
That's why
let's
I had
go
10
up.
in my head.
yeah,
So
if
it's a little more extensive than that. To do the environmental works and all that.
Well,
And again, I don't know what the town administrator's office has in her account to do the environmental works. There's gonna have to be more environmental work done because the Conservation Commission, the order of conditions that was in place has expired. So there'd be a whole nother set of environmental paperwork that needs to be replicated.
well, I'm going to tell you, the Conservation Commission right now is extremely slow. It took me almost 3 months to get a certificate of compliance on a piece of property over here. So,
yeah, I think there's a new commissioner and I think he's trying to get into the running mode. So, yeah.
yeah, it's tough right now.
Okay.
Well, if we get in, we're in queue, and if it doesn't happen until next year, it doesn't happen, but we're in queue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mark, do you want to amend I like your motion, throw a dollar figure at it, let's finish it, and then we can vote on it.
Not to exceed $20,000.
Okay. Do I hear it a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Celine, did you catch when you stepped? Okay, just making sure. All those in favor? Celine,
Aye.
David Brohl,
Aye.
David Dempsey,
Aye.
Mark Sand.
Aye.
Let's go for it.
Does anybody want a copy of these? Does anybody want these?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I'd love to have
absolutely.
it.
I don't know if I need a copy, but I think that'll be great. Does the town have
This
those?
is the
Celine?
same thing I gave you. This is the large scale version of the small scale version I already gave you. For the smaller one. I don't know. I don't want them.
She's cleaning, she's nesting.
Empty house.
All right, we kind of combine the spending and the operating plan at one thing. So we've already talked about under new business, the review of the tentative schedules. I looked at all the schedules. If you literally take Triton Youth Soccer, Triton Youth Lacrosse, and Rush, they have every hour booked. Sphinx is looking for either field 3 or 4 from 10 to 6 on Sunday, and either they prefer a Monday and a Wednesday, or on a field 5A or 5B for a couple of hours. That's where that's the overlap right now, just so everybody knows. All right.
I just think that the larger, more densely populated towns, I feel they have to vie for space kind of a little bit more, will probably have a little more difficulty. So I just think that our users are kind of a little used to having some flexibility.
Yeah.
Well, they just take, I looked at Jason's thing and it's like, we want this and this, and these are used by Rush. And I'm going, why is Rush, I'm thinking on the back of my mind, why is Rush on their application, their email that they sent, but Danielle sent hers in, said they're looking for it. But they literally took up every hour available. They're looking 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday, or 8 to 6, and then 4 to 7, 5 to 7 during the week.
But shouldn't Rush be separate from Jason's and apply separately?
They did. They have their own. There is an application for both. Jason just in an email kind of just explained what they're looking for, and then he mentioned, I have these fields on Saturday, but Rush has them during the week, and I'm just like, but again, Rush filled their application out, Sphinx filled their application out, and then the 2 Triton programs have this, and every hour is booked right now. So if there's a way, I mean, my problem is I don't want him to look at Sphinx and say, you're the odd man out, you have to go find some other place, or we've got to look at other places.
Right.
Because then that discourages anybody else that wants to try to come in, realize the other 3 have the monopoly. But at the same point, soccer and lacrosse do get priority. And then the question we tell Rush is, yeah, you can't do it. And then the question then is, do they just go, if I don't get what I want, I'm taking all my stuff. And then how do we handle there?
Right.
So,
Thoughts? Celine?
no,
Mark, David, anything?
I'm going to go back to maybe, going before the Board of Selectmen and just asking about that other field, even if it's just for temporary use, just for like an overload. Like when Jason was saying they had 150 little kids coming in there, they can do the same thing, setting up in a field like that with cones and working off of cones. They don't need nets and all that stuff. So I think, there's opportunities there if we could maybe even, like I said, look somewhere else for a field that's just sitting there empty all the time.
Because you gotta realize both the greens are gonna be with baseball and softball and the T-balls and stuff. They use both ends at, I always get them screwed up. The lower, what's the one down by,
lower green.
that's the lower green. They're using that, and then they use the upper green for usually the T-ball stuff as well, but they may not need as much, but it's also a flatter area and it's a little bit more, something can be used.
The upper green is a space that's empty all the time. Even the T-ball, when they're doing T-ball there, the outfield is the outside, the outer edge of the infield grass. I mean, that's about the extent of the field that they really use. So it's a large field, it's flat, it's open. It does get a little bit of water sometimes in heavy rains, but it's still a pretty good field for a developmental program or something like that. I can understand you can't play games on there, but you can certainly set up cones and have a good practice.
But the problem is, their Triton Youth Soccer is Saturday. Sphinx and Rush are both looking for Sunday, along with lacrosse. And then Sphinx is looking for, we could give them that field, give them the upper green on the Monday and Wednesday. They can use the field there. It's a Sunday game.
Right.
And they're looking for a field for the full day. And Rush right now has got, on Sunday, they have 4. They have 3, 4, and both 5A and 5B.
Wow.
On their calendar. And it's a question of.
Yeah. So why don't we put a penalty clause in, and if they don't show up, we double their fee for the week.
We have to write it into the agreement. That as well.
It's got to be written up front.
It's just, it's frustrating.
Selena, are we down to a minute?
You're getting you got 6 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We should plan on when our next meeting is, and even if it has to be next week, which
All
I'm
right,
not
so-
available next Monday.
All right, so I'm looking at, that was kind of that was the only thing left we had was Central Street Field. I just sent, Alicia apologized having to duck out. I said, can you confirm with me if we own the area, if the town owns the culvert and that knoll area towards the red house? If we have it, and then get an idea of seeing what else can we do. But I mean, as Celine and I were talking about before we got on, I said, we want to put up a playground. Where would be a place to put it? Could we do like a, I know a lot of people want to bring dogs. We don't want to have them there, but if we ever had a dog area, or we had the theater area we've been talking about for 3 years. I mean, these are all things that we want to put up there. We want to make this we want to look at the whole thing. This isn't something we're going to get done in the next year. But if we looked at something that was a 3 to 5 year plan, so we wanted to do this, what else can we do and how do we do it? Some of these things we could pay for out of the budget. If we did the feasibility study this year out of between what we did for Huntress and what we did for Kent Way, the following year, maybe we do the swing set or something like that, and not the swing set, the playground, and something else. It's just an idea.
Well,
So-
the dog park, you're gonna have a problem with, ain't not in my backyard. That's what that's the problem with finding a place for a dog park. Great idea. I mean, you know, I love dogs, but I think
Mark?
that's the problem with it. Whenever you try to talk about a dog park, it's like, that's when public get their antennas up and it just makes it difficult.
Mark?
Dave, you're absolutely right with that. And that's one of the reasons why Kent Way would be an ideal spot for a dog run.
Sure.
It also leads to Dave Broll's concern about dogs in the field. It's easier to say you can't have your dogs here, give a place down the road.
Right.
That's fenced in. If it's an acre, I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't even have to be that big. The one in Haverhill isn't
Right.
that big. There's a place for you can have your dogs run off the leash. So we can address a couple of issues if we play our cards right. But the next meeting, next month,
Yes. Well, if we
January
don't
what?
do, we have a couple of weeks. I mean, Celine said she's not available next week.
Available next Monday. I'm not.
Yeah.
I can go any day now. I'm not tied to Mondays. We closed the restaurant for the season, so I'm good. You know, I'm good whenever we gotta go.
I don't think we want to meet. I mean, what's every up? I mean, if we have the meeting, it's really just get the schedule kind of firmed up and what we're going to do regarding to for the spring. That and any updates that David can get us on the basketball. Those are the main things we're kind of looking at.
I would suggest just waiting off until beginning of January. I mean, let's wait a little bit of time for Seacoast or anybody else to put an application in. So we don't
Okay.
spend hours doing something that's going to be negated by, oh, here comes Seacoast.
What's the address of Central Street? Is it 81?
Yes.
Yes. So we have, Mondays are all open in January. Do we want to do the 4th, which is the first Monday of the month? It's going to be kind of crazy, but I have no problems with it.
Sure.
Celine, Dave,
I'm good.
Celine?
I have the rec committee meeting already in my calendar.
Yeah.
January 4th, 6 to 7:30.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yep. Then,
And David, see if you can get Chris to that meeting.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be good.
I'll
So we
ask.
can just go over, I mean, again, the big thing there is going to be, we're going to focus, the basketball court. I'm not going to worry, I'm going to take the online calendar off for the time being, just because we're going to focus on other things. I'm
What time?
going to leave the spending and operating plan and then the schedule, and that's going to be where we're going to kind of leave it.
Fourth down?
Okay?
Okay.
Anybody else
All
has
right.
anything added once added, just let me know. I'll post it probably the week before, once I get the Zoom address from Celine, but we'll have that stuff done, but that's what we're looking at right now.
All right.
Okay? Do I hear a motion to adjourn at 7:43?
I make a motion that we adjourn at 7:43.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We still got, what, a minute and a half, Celine?
Oh yeah, real quickly before we adjourn.
You had to do it, didn't you?
Real quickly, I'll do this as quick as possible. Talk to Tracy. She said, if you want to put restrictions on dog, the committee will need to amend their playing field and permit policy accordingly and submit it to the select board for approval. So we have to amend our field situation and then bring it to, so we have to meet with them anyway about the upper green.
Other areas.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we may not get to that in the January one unless you want to do it real quick before we get to, so we gotta find what theirs is, but, all right, so do I have no other further discussion? All those in favor? Celine,
Aye.
David Broll,
Aye.
David Dempsey,
Aye.
and Mark Sand. Mark, yes, no, on the adjourning?
Yes,
Okay, sorry.
So according to this, real quick. This is the, you can't see the whole map. That's Central Street. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the whole thing is the parcel.
Yeah. We have, yeah, I looked at it too, mass property lines, and we definitely own that.
Cool.
You know, and that's
So
all
we can-
one parcel.
All right.
This is
Everybody,
where, this is where the street is here, and that's the rest of the.
Yep.
Do you see that?
barely.
Barely.
Me map Newbury, MIMAP Newbury, and
Okay.
then put in the address, 81
81
Central Street.
Central Street.
Yeah.
Everybody, if I do not see you or speak to you, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe. David, take care of yourself, okay?
All right.
That's what
We'll
I'm
see ya.
doing. I'm hoping I make it.
All right.
Looking for a negative test.
All right.
Wednesday or
Take
Thursday. So
care.
we'll see.
All
All
right.
right, guys,
Everybody
Merry
take
Christmas,
care.
Happy
Holiday.
Holidays.
You too. Bye
Enjoy
bye
it.
now.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys later. Merry Christmas.
You
Merry
too,
Christmas.
Dave. See ya.